The final artifact, a tale of darkness and despair. In a hidden valley, surrounded by majestic mountains that seem to touch the sky, lies the small and peaceful town of Valverde. With its picturesque red-roofed houses, cobblestone streets, and a central square dominated by an ancient tree, the town is a picture of serenity. The Argente River, clear and shimmering, gently winds through the center, reflecting the sunlight and the smiles of the residents. Valverde is inhabited by warm and welcoming people, whose families have settled there for generations. Life in the town follows a tranquil rhythm, marked by the ringing of the church bells and the changing seasons. The residents know each other by name, sharing stories and traditions that intertwine like the roots of the old square tree. The local economy is sustained by small farms, handicrafts, and a handful of shops that sell everything from fresh produce to antiques. Children play freely in the streets, while the elderly spend their time on park benches, exchanging stories and watching life go by. The community values its traditions, celebrating festivals and ceremonies that strengthen the bonds between people and the land. Each year, the arrival of spring is celebrated with a festival that fills the streets with music, dance, and colors. This event, awaited by all, is a time of renewal and joy, symbolizing the harmony between the residents and the nature that surrounds them. In this setting of peace and simplicity, the discovery of a time capsule beneath the old square tree is received with curiosity and enthusiasm. What was meant to be a link with the past and a celebration of the town's history soon becomes the beginning of an unexpected journey, which would test the bonds of this united community and challenge the very essence of its peaceful existence. The capsule, buried more than a century ago by the town's founders, was supposed to be a capsule of memories, a link between the past and the future. But what it contained was far more sinister. When the capsule was opened in a ceremony full of expectation, the first things seen were expected relics, faded photographs, period coins, old newspapers. However, among these objects, there was a sealed envelope, its seal intact despite the years. The handwriting on the envelope read, "For those who find this, in the hope that you can change what is to come." Inside the envelope, there were a series of letters and drawings that depicted the town, not as it was in the past, but as it would be in the near future. Incredibly precise details about people, places, and events were accompanied by terrifying predictions, natural disasters, epidemics, and the most terrifying of all, an apocalyptic event that threatened to extinguish all life in the region. The discovery caused a mix of fascination and horror among the residents. Skeptics questioned the authenticity of the predictions, while others felt a growing terror as small coincidences began to align with the capsule's predictions. The town was divided between those who wanted to ignore the warnings and those who felt the urgency to act. As the debate raged, inexplicable events began to occur. Agitated animals fled to the mountains, bizarre weather patterns emerged out of nowhere, and people reported visions and nightmares that mirrored the predictions of the capsule. The tension escalated, and the town found itself in a race against time to decipher how to avoid the predicted apocalypse. A team was formed, led by a local historian, a climate scientist, and a direct descendant of the town's founders. Together, they delved into the predictions, trying to decipher the hidden clues in the letters and drawings. Each discovery led them deeper into a plot of ancient mysteries and forgotten secrets, revealing that the time capsule was part of something much bigger. As they neared the truth, even stranger phenomena began to plague the city. Shadows moved independently at night, inexplicable whispers echoed through the empty streets, and a dense, impenetrable fog surrounded the city, cutting it off from the outside world. Reality seemed to bend around them, as if time itself was twisting in response to the proximity of the apocalypse. The team then discovered the key to everything. The time capsule was an artifact created by a secret society of the city's founders, who possessed advanced knowledge about time and space. They had foreseen a rare cosmic alignment that would open a portal to a parallel dimension, unleashing the chaos that could lead to the end of everything. With this revelation, the team devised a desperate plan to close the portal before it fully opened. They needed to gather artifacts scattered throughout the city, each carrying a fragment of the power necessary to seal the imminent breach in reality. As the truth about the time capsule and the apocalyptic predictions unfolded, the search for the 5 necessary artifacts to close the portal became a desperate and dangerous mission. The artifacts, scattered across ancient and forgotten locations around Valverde, were protected by riddles and guardians that challenged the hunter's courage and sanity. The first artifact was hidden in the ruins of a chapel high in the mountains, a place shrouded in mists and legends of ghostly apparitions. As the team approached, the supernatural silence was broken by whispers from the shadows, and ethereal figures began to surround them, disorienting them with visions of their worst fears. The search for the artifact cost the sanity of one of their members, who was consumed by madness, whispering dark secrets until his last days. The second artifact required them to descend into the depths of the Argente River, where a submerged cave hid relics from time immemorial. The waters, usually clear, turned dark and turbulent, as if alive, fighting against the intruders. Inside the cave, the air was heavy, charged with an energy that made it hard to breathe. As they took possession of the artifact, an invisible force attacked, dragging one of the divers into the depths, his scream echoing in the darkness before being silenced forever. The third piece was hidden in the city's library, among ancient books that held secrets beyond human comprehension. The search turned into a mental maze, where each book opened sucked the hunters into its stories, forcing them to live nightmares that tested their resolve and will to live. One of the researchers was trapped in one of these nightmares, her catatonic body found among the shelves, eyes open to an invisible terror. The fourth artifact required a journey to an ancient cemetery, where the restless dead lay. The night the team arrived, the ground trembled with skeletal hands emerging from the graves, trying to drag them into death. The fog was thick, cut only by the sound of chains dragging. As they secured the artifact, they lost one of their own to the dead, his last vision being the desperate faces of his friends, as he was pulled into the depths of the earth. The last artifact was in the central square itself, under the old tree that had witnessed the founding of Valverde. But the sacred ground became a battlefield against a dark entity that defended the artifact with supernatural violence. The fight was brutal, and although they secured the final artifact, victory came at the cost of another member's life, taken by an invisible force, leaving behind a mourning community and a legacy of courage. The hunt for the artifacts, marked by losses and unimaginable horrors, left deep scars on those who returned. The city of Valverde, once a haven of peace, now carried the weight of the knowledge of what lurked in the shadows, knowing that the line between reality and nightmare was thinner than they had ever imagined. As the alignment drew near, the city transformed into a battleground between natural and supernatural forces. The team, with the help of brave locals, fought to gather the artifacts, facing challenges that tested their sanity and will to survive. At the climax of the story, with the portal beginning to open, revealing glimpses of indescribable chaos from the other side, the team conducted the ritual to close the portal. They succeeded, but the cost was high. The city was devastated, many lives were lost, and reality would never be the same again. The scars of the event left deep marks on the city and its inhabitants. On the fateful night when the last artifact was placed in the circle of ancient stones around the old tree, the air of Valverde was saturated with a grim expectation. The night sky, once dotted with stars, was now a vault of black clouds, swirling like a maelstrom above them. The team, worn by the losses and horrors faced, united with a singular purpose: to close the portal and avert the predicted apocalypse. With the placement of the last artifact, an intense light burst from the center of the circle, cutting through the darkness like a blade. The ground shook, and the winds howled, as if the very earth protested against what was to come. Then, an abrupt silence fell over Valverde, so deep and total it seemed to swallow even the sound of their own thoughts. It was in this silence that the truth was revealed, not with words, but as a vision that unfolded before the eyes of all present. The time capsule, thought to be a warning, was in fact a sealed receptacle with a sinister purpose. Inside, there were not only predictions of the future but the essence of a damned soul, imprisoned centuries ago for crimes so heinous that its name had been erased from history. The ritual they believed would close the portal was, in fact, the key to its release. The energies gathered, the losses suffered, all had been part of a larger design, meticulously orchestrated to bring this entity back into the world of the living. As the understanding of this terrible truth settled in, the figure of a man emerged from the center of the circle, where the light still pulsed. His appearance was that of a being from another era, with eyes that glowed with ancient malevolence. A cruel smile curved his lips as he observed those who, unknowingly, had been his liberators. The first atrocities occurred in the hours that followed. Houses were found in ruins, entire families disappeared without a trace. Those who survived spoke of a man whose presence was preceded by a deadly chill and whose touch brought death. Valverde, once a haven of peace, became the stage for an unnamed terror. The survivors of the ritual, now aware of the catastrophic error they had committed, found themselves before a new mission, to find a way to recapture the entity they had released. Armed with the bitter knowledge of their failure and the determination to correct it, they set out, no longer as artifact hunters, but as desperate guardians, seeking to save the world from an evil they themselves had unleashed. As the fight against the released entity unfolded, the survivors of Valverde, though resilient and full of determination, found themselves constantly outmatched by the dark forces around them. The damned soul, once trapped by the time capsule, proved to be a formidable opponent, its presence alone enough to poison minds, corrupt hearts, and shatter the hopes of those who dared to confront it. Each attempt to contain him only served to demonstrate how deeply he had entwined himself into the fabric of the world, using the artifacts not as seals of his imprisonment, but as sources of his renewed power. The darkness emanating from him spread like a plague, a veil of despair that covered Valverde and threatened to extend beyond its borders. The city's last defenders, aware that their forces dwindled with each passing day, conceived a final plan, a direct confrontation with the entity, in the hope that a decisive blow could reverse the unleashed chaos. Under the pale light of a waning moon, they gathered at the same place where it all had begun, the old tree in the central square, now a symbol of their imminent ruin. The ensuing battle was epic, marked by acts of bravery and sacrifice. But, as the confrontation progressed, it became painfully evident that the entity not only resisted their efforts but also fed on them. Each strike against it seemed only to increase its strength, each life lost only served to deepen the shadows that spread. In the end, when dawn tinged the sky with bloody red, a sepulchral silence settled over Valverde. The city, once vibrant and full of life, now lay in ruins, its buildings collapsed and its streets empty, a mute testimony to the terror that had been unleashed. The damned soul, far from being defeated, rose triumphant, his macabre smile a promise of calamities to come. With Valverde subdued, the entity turned its gaze to the horizon, seeking new territories to conquer. Its presence, a dark stain against the dawn, vanished into the horizon, leaving behind only the echo of its sinister laughter. The world, unaware of Valverde's fate, remained oblivious to the evil that now walked free among them, seeking new victims for its endless voracity. The city of Valverde became a legend, a cautionary tale about the danger of awakening what should remain asleep. And as the entity wandered, the memory of its release served as a grim reminder that, somewhere in the shadows, evil awaited, always ready to emerge from the depths and plunge the world into darkness. Dare to venture into the unknown. Join us on a journey where shadows whisper and secrets lurk. Subscribe now and ring the bell to summon fresh mysteries directly to your screen every few days. Ignore this call, and be warned, an eternal curse awaits those who wander in the dark, unguided. Do you have the courage to face the unknown? Your adventure begins with a click. Welcome to the realm where every notification brings you closer to the abyss. Subscribe, if you dare.